Call the meeting to order at about 3:04. And the first item on the agenda was for minutes. We don't have any, so we will move right into section 2, the compensation and classification plan continued, picking up where we left off. And Pete.
So, at the last meeting, we finalized, or we did the position rating analysis. And based off of that, position rating analysis, we then also agreed that we would use a 50-point break for each of the grade buckets. So I then did that, and I created the compensation classification plan based on that 50-point bucket. I put each position into that at the starting rate of 17. What was the starting rate?
1778.
No, that's not the starting rate. I'll explain in a second. Because I applied the COLA, so that's why it's not the starting rate. So the starting rate that was originally proposed from the consultant was $17.10. I put that into step 1, grade 1, but also applied the COLA, which was approved at 4%. So that actually comes out to $17.78. And then I applied the step increases and the grade increases. However, when I did the grade increases, we originally were doing an 8% grade increase or an 8% increase between each grade level. That was putting us way behind schedule because we had far fewer grades than before. So I adjusted that to a 12% change between each grade. And when I then put those values into every employee at a step 1, there were a number of employees that were well underfunded compared to where they are currently. Primarily in grades 1, 2, and 3, a little bit in 4 as well. And a few, they were interspersed. So essentially, I was a little nervous, didn't feel that the 50-point bucket was a good option. So I just wanted to test out a couple other options. So I then tested out another one, which was...
Is that number 2?
That's number 2. This one used... I need to pull it back up 1 second. This one used a 45-point spread in each bucket consistently. Using that 45-point for each grade bucket, we ended up with 10 grades. I then used an 11% increase between grades. The reason being, you're starting at 1710 and getting all the way up to grade 10. We were keeping ourselves pretty in line from start to end. However, with that one applied, we were still having significant issues with the the pay rates in grades 1 through 3 and 4 this time. So I did one more test.
Yeah. Just a quick question. When you say differences, that means I'm looking at the one called pre-final, in this case, pre-final 2, and I'm looking at the second to last or the last column. One is hourly, one is annual, and anything in parentheses is a negative difference between what they're paid now and what this new scheme would do. Okay, all right, just to making sure, because there are still some up in the grade 5 on that one. I see.
Yeah, there's as well. There's the handful, but the primary issue is still in the lower buckets, the lower grades.
Yeah,
you can see, and it's still true
All the way up through 10. Grade 10.
Huh?
Grade 10 also has negatives.
What?
Grade 10 is also negative.
On what sheet?
Not like Amy Trader on number 3.
Oh, we're not on number 3 yet. We're on number 2.
Sorry. That was
No, but Amy Schrader is a negative even on number 2, that's in grade 7. Again, yeah, there are going to be a couple outstanding ones on the higher ones, but the primary issue is really in our lower grades.
Hmm.
Where you even have like the assistant treasurer collector at a negative 6.7.
Yeah.
And that's a negative on the hourly rate. So I did one more test. This one used what did this one use? Let me pull it out.
25.
Yeah, I think it's like 25 or 30.
That number 2 is 30. To begin with, between the points, but 30 or
No, it was 45.
oh, right.
Yeah, the first one was 50, then it was
50,
45.
yes.
Oh, okay, so then my last test was using 30-point buckets for the first 10 grades and then 50-point buckets for everything grades 11 beyond.
So 30 for the first 10
Yep,
and 50 after.
yep. Which ends up with 13 grades. You can see now there is still disparity in grades 1 through 6. They are smaller rate differences. A number of these still are where I have all of them in at step 1. A lot of the employees won't be, current employees aren't going to be at step 1.
Right.
But I just want to call out at a step 1, there is still these outstanding where there's still a loss in the rate values. But what it does is it does keep, like the higher levels don't really have any losses other than Wayne and Amy. They're still in negatives. And then you do have a negative on, who's this, the Dylan senior operator level. We wouldn't do any reductions, but we would keep them even anyways, but I just doing this test, I wanted to show you where the differences are of where they're currently paid versus where they would be if we put in this new grade scale at step 1. In the end, I think you get better parity when you are using the third and final option. However, I don't know that we should be starting we were starting at $17.10 plus the 4% COLA, which is why I think our earlier grades are still showing in the low because we're starting so low.
1710 came from the consultant.
Yeah. And that was based off of the rate of pay of those their current pays in the grade 1. And that was because currently the constables are the lower hourly rate of all those in grade 1 at 1710. So she was using 1710 as the starting point and then moving on.
I have just a question out of curiosity, and I know municipalities, at least Whately, is always done when it comes to COLAs, same percentage across the board. What tends to happen is the low end and the top end just keep getting further and further apart because of the higher number, bigger increase.
Right.
Is there anything that the town should at some point be looking at is to do like a sliding scale or something so that the low end more or less stays a little closer instead of continuing to spread out? Is that, you know what I'm saying?
I think, yeah, because 4% increase on a $50,000 salary versus $100,000 salary is significantly different.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting at. And so is that
So you could do a step COLA.
I don't know, I'm just asking that question. Is that ever something that anyone's run up against?
I'm sure it's come up for Becky and Bull in one way, but
No, the percent was sort of like the better thing to do in some ways. I'm like, what's the other option to just give everybody an absolute number, dollar number raise? And that would probably be like seem unfair to
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean percentage mostly because we're doing COLAs based on cost of living, and people who are on the lower end are presumably not at the end of their careers yet, and they may not be a cemetery sexton forever. They may work their way up to
Right.
higher grades and so on. So I guess I wasn't thinking of that in the same way as you were thinking of it.
I just bring it up because I didn't know if that would, at some point in time, help that low end that seem to be struggling with.
yeah,
Hi, can I
Not
weigh
saying-
in?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so I completely concur with the sentiment, but legally, no, there's no way you can do a different COLA for different classes of employees. I'm almost certain that's true.
Yeah, the only other option, and I think there was one town that in study that did a certain hourly rate increase. What
yeah,
was
they,
that?
Ashfield did a 2% COLA plus $1 per hour increase. So everybody's pay rate went up by $1 with a 2% COLA applied.
Which would increase, that ends up being a bigger percentage on the
lower
entry
end,
level than it does on the top.
It does, yeah.
Correct.
I guess that's what I'm,
That's not
Yeah.
under.
Yeah, so that's kind of a hybrid, right? They're doing a little bit of each, an
Yes.
absolute raise for everyone and a percentage raise for everyone.
The reason why they
Calling
did
one a
that-
COLA and calling one.
The reason why they did that though is because they don't have a classification plan, so they don't have a step
Yeah.
process, so. That
it may be just something to think about in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was there to give essentially everybody a $1 step increase. And then their COLA, whereas we're creating the step increases now and adding a COLA.
Okay.
So it's kind of doing the same thing without the step increases being the same across the board.
Hmm. Well, I had another kind of question, and I'm not sure where maybe it's really in the figuring out where people start on their steps, but I'm thinking we're making this comparison here between some hypothetical employees who all start on step one, and we're comparing them to employees we have now who may or may not, because of their years of service, really be on step one. And I'm thinking particularly of, well, Amy's not with us anymore, but Amy's position and Wayne's position, those are ones where the market in a way sets their rate. That those, I mean, it's really hard to find people who are trained to be treasurer collector. It's hard to find someone who can be trained to run our water department. It seems to me somewhere in here that kind of the market rate for wages should come into it, and I'm not sure where that is. So far, I don't think I've seen it. You pinned the value in the top corner of the pre-final box, the pre-final one with just shows the steps. You did that, you put in 8% and 8% or whatever the percents for the grades and the steps and between between steps, between grades for the fire and for the others. And then the rest of the chart fills out, right? And then the other one is just a comparison. So I sort of feel like the comparison is not necessarily the most useful one unless we were to put those people on steps, then it would be a little bit more useful. But I guess I don't understand where sort of what is the market paying for this batch of talent versus that batch of talent.
there was a spreadsheet that incorporated that and showed 75% of
Yes.
the wage.
Yeah.
I can't find it off the top of my head. It's in there somewhere.
All of your meetings.
It's a lot of paper.
That was the first meeting.
Yeah, it was from a while ago.
It's from a while ago.
That was one tree ago.
But to your question, would that be helpful? Because eventually
Well-
you've got to go down employee by employee, right?
No, so let's step back. That that report that you're referring to and that percentile, those numbers then were fed into creating that step table.
Okay, so it's already.
So it is already incorporated.
Okay, so that answers Joyce's question. or my
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. So for example, then it may be that even starting from number 3, which is where Pete thought would be is the best of the 3 we've got in front of us, then probably what we would end up doing is put people on steps that are kind of commensurate with their current rate.
And starting from there.
Yeah, that's the best we could do, yeah.
And it may or may not compare exactly to their years of experience. But my guess is it probably won't be that different.
I think no matter what happens, there's gonna be that fluctuation. And because we've regraded everything, that it's gonna take a few years for things to work out and get more in line. I mean, for instance, the police officers are jumping way up. And it's just gonna take some time. And even those that we now are feeling are being paid too much, if you want to use that word. It's gonna take a few years where they may not get a step or as much, where they might start off pretty high on the steps.
Does it have to be a constant percentage between grades?
It doesn't.
Because that might also be a place where putting in a higher percentage somewhere low in there, and then a lower percentage later on, because there are some where there's like a really significant amount over, like some are like $4 and $5 an hour more under this particular. And so it might help, if we started out with higher percents in the first couple, and then a higher percentage difference, and then a smaller percentage difference between some of the higher upper ones. And they would probably overlap more with each other. That would be okay too.
And how does that impact the market value of the position though? If you do that.
That would be a good question. As time goes on, is the market value gonna increase more than we're increasing if we're shrinking that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying, I think the first objective is to right size the salary so that they're appropriate in the salary range, rather than try to sort of back into, well, they really should only be this far. I think you got to consider the market value as at the end of the test. And I don't know that it might be that your percentage changes aren't between the grades, but the changes could be in the steps. I guess it's saying sort of what you're saying. Each step here is 2.5%.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I was thinking leave that alone. Because that's sort of like experience is being rewarded.
Yeah.
And that you get better at doing your job the longer you've done it. The thing I was saying is that we arbitrarily, put these into buckets, but maybe it's not necessarily, this is going to sound really horribly physics teachery. It's not necessarily a linear function between grade 1 and grade 10. All right. It might be that what we need is to go up a little faster and then up a little slower. Does that make sense? And that would be another way of dealing with the bad fit that we have. And it might just get us better starting point to fit, because I think with some people, if we just like chuck them all the way to the right-hand side of the steps, then after a year or two, maybe they don't have any more steps. They're stepped out. And maybe that's fine, but it just seemed like that's not, it seems like a not, I don't, doesn't have that much finesse. And
So I added a column to the right of this document that we're looking at right now to
Number
show the
three.
percentage delta, number 3.
Of the
Yeah.
cost impact spreadsheet.
Yes, cost impact sheet, to look at the wage rates, and obviously some are negative because they have to be increased. But generally, the ones that are well over that we're talking about, we're talking about 14% increases in the wage. That's a pretty big jump. That's how it's currently resolving. And like, nobody's like 5% plus whatever, it's 4% COLA and a 10%. And that may well be accurate relative to, again, what's the market value of the position, meaning we really underpaid. And now we need to self-correct the issue, but the number is going to jump out on paper when you look at it that way. 14%.
What I'm struggling with is when we're looking at the current rate, that's based on an individual who is at a step other than step 1, but when we're looking at the proposed rates, they're all step 1. So we're kind of evaluating how far off we are, when in reality, we're probably off different amounts, because you factor in the person who is a step 5 now. Should we be comparing what the proposed step 5 salary is?
Well, Susan, the problem is we don't have steps right now.
But if we were to say, okay, I'm making this up. If we were to say 5 years is step 5, and this person has been here 5 years, we're assuming everybody is at the bottom, and I don't think everybody, even close is at the bottom.
No, the reason why I couldn't put them in at a value for their step is we haven't agreed what the step proposal should be.
Mm-hmm. Understood. I think what I'm saying is maybe we need to have that conversation so we can overlay that.
Yeah.
Because that may negate some of the variance we're seeing.
Yeah.
If we take the cost analysis impact on number 3, did you look at putting everybody in? Is there anybody that's already at step 10? Did you look at that yet?
Not yet, no.
Okay. So, I mean, that.
Well, let's just look at somebody who's got a really high negative. So the backup operator is at 2996, grade 5. If he was at step 10, it would be 3022 would be an increase. So the raise at step 10, and you've been there, it says 38 years, but I don't know if that's actually been in that role. Let's look at somebody else. Wayne has a grade 10.
Where is Wayne?
Towards the bottom of the sheet. Towards the bottom of the sheet. Oh, you went too far. The bottom of the first sheet. Oh, it's on sheet 3.
Because I added
different
that
one.
extra column.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
He was at.
If he's grade 10, and it would be, if it's 9 years, step 9 would be 4331, so that would be an increase over his current rate.
I'm sorry, say that again. I couldn't hear you.
That's a 5% increase, right? That's not an unreasonable increase. That's including the COLA at 4%.
Correct.
Yeah, and but it's high up on, that's at step 9. He's only
It's at
got
step
one
9,
more,
yeah.
more step to go.
Right.
We were looking at Amy. Amy,
Amy Schrader.
now that, obviously that role is different now. But even if, and that was also a contracted position, so it's a little bit of a wonky, the rate is higher because it was a contracted position. But, her current rate would put her somewhere between steps 5 and 6 of the grade that we're proposing.
Yeah, that's. not
So
bad,
the
but
middle of the
Right.
bucket.
Whereas a new treasure collector would likely come in at a lower step, so.
Correct, yeah.
Yep.
So I would say based on looking at those high differences and then actually looking at where they might fall, they're not beyond our step people. They're still within our step
Yeah,
people.
they got, okay.
With a little bit of room to
Yeah.
grow, which is what I think.
For Wayne, a small amount of room, but that's because of the number of years of service.
Correct.
Otherwise, if we were to determine that, this again brings us to the question of, are we doing steps every year or is it every other year? If it was every other year, then
Step
Wayne would be,
increases.
then Wayne would be step 4, which would be 3828, which means lower than current, so we would only be applying COLAs on the previous year's salary and no step increase until he finally hit where he was in a step increase that would.
And it may be that somebody maxes out and then they get the
Yeah.
COLA after that.
And it's the reality, yeah.
That's typically how it's done in the private sector.
Right, I just was hoping
Some
we
people
would
would go
start with somebody at the top.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
That knows they're gonna still be working for
that
another.
they have room to grow.
Right, right.
Yeah. No, the more I think about it, the more I think what Susan said was important, that if we, and it sounds like by looking at where someone would sit on a step in the steps, if that's really taking care of a lot of the discrepancy, then maybe that's the next logical step, pun intended, would be to put folks on steps and see what that does to the discrepancies we see.
Well, I can do that now while we're sitting here if you want.
Sure.
It won't take long. I think that would be helpful.
Now, the only question, I'm gonna call out a few of the positions if you can verify if the numbers I have are correct, because the numbers I have are from their hire date, unfortunately are.
Longevity?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's solely based on years of service, not how long they've been in the role. So I might need you to, they're like off the top of your head. Just for our information purposes, we do this. So get ready, yeah.
Yeah. Hope you had an easy day.
Expect me to know that for everybody, and that's not.
Right. It's why we're doing this before you retire.
So to begin, we'll look at Neil. Now we're using 1 year equals 1 step.
Yeah, let's start with that.
For the time being, yeah. Or we can fine tune, but at least this gives us some indication.
In 1953. All right, Julia, highest step is going to be 10. Step has got to be. Has Tom, how long has Tom actually been a constable? A good period.
30 years plus.
Okay, so he has been over 30 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do 10 again.
22, 20.
And then Carol Ryan, 3 years. 1868. Timber is 2. So Darcy will put at 10.
Now that may change. I mean, you can leave it for now, but
Oh, because the election.
the election,
Yeah.
he's not pull papers.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um. Tori, she stays at 1921, though. That is lower than her birthday, but, yeah, you, 9 years custodian for both locations.
No, he's definitely library, yes, but I don't think it's been 9. It's probably been a little less than that. I couldn't tell you if it's
Would
7.
we do 2 different rates?
I don't think you should.
I don't think we should either, because he's doing the custodian role.
Yes,
Yeah,
I would leave that.
all right, so we'll do that 9,
Yep.
2167. For station. That's gonna stay, that feels better. It's for.
That's from. These grades are not correct.
Sheet are you on?
I'm on your version 3. But the police officers that are part-time are step, that says grade 5. But they're actually grade 7.
It says 7.
Well, it says 5 right here, right?
Oh, this is
That's
sheet
7.
3, you're
Is
on
this-
sheet 1.
No,
Version
no,
one.
It said grade 7 on this one.
it must be version 2. 1472. Yeah, 1422. Too much paper.
It's 7.
Just going to the ones that have been here long, just putting them all in 10s and comparing the rate
Okay.
to the outermost step. Okay. It's not very much.
So Dougie, will we keep him at a 10?
Yeah, I almost think,
He's a part-time hourly essentially,
yeah, that
but based on a number of years, it would be at a step 10.
I have mixed feelings. I almost feel like it shouldn't, that should just be maybe should be based on 8 by years of experience for that position, but
For operator labor.
for the part-time, you know, like when you need somebody, I'm trying to think of another scenario, but maybe, I guess it's when I think about like firefighters, and maybe it should be left that way. Should be left at the 10 at the top.
He's nearly at step 9 right now.
Yeah. But again, if I was to hire another part-time operator in a unforeseen event, that person would probably be a lesser rate. So
Oh, yeah.
leave it. Let's leave it.
Yeah, you're budgeting right now for the person.
Yep. Yep,
Yeah,
right. Okay.
okay.
backup operator, definitely, that's correct, 38, sounds right.
Yeah, okay.
And he started in 86, I think.
Great. Almost, he's doing 26 cents
That,
of the max range of that.
which, that's, you'd expect.
Your 1 year anniversary, that puts you into step 2.
When you talk about it.
I'm realizing that the anniversary of your years of service, which is what that years in the role mean, is how many years of service you've had in that role as of July 1.
Okay,
If you are years of 5, you're step 6, because you start out at 1, which is year 0. So I'm gonna go back.
so I see years in role is not.
Yeah.
Okay.
38.
Except for those that were already in 10, because they already maxed out.
Right. If we wanted to be really completely geeky about it, we'd start everyone on step 0.
Yeah, that probably would have been an easier way for me to read this, yeah.
That would have been.
Uh,
You could create a step 0.
I could just rename them. You could just
You
rename.
know, you just start out with the COLA.
Yeah, you could.
Well, that's what we are. That's what our steps
Yeah,
are.
it would literally be renaming the steps, not
It's just-
recalculating anything.
Yeah,
So 0 through 9.
So that, I mean, the step number doesn't necessarily have to be the same number as the years of service. But here we think of that as like, how does a computer scientist count things and how does a physicist count things? We usually start from 1 and they usually start from 0. So this is really just the ongoing philosophical, differences between various professions looking at them. Anyway, I'm just stalling so that Pete has time to.
That's how you have birthday. Your birthday, 1 is 1 year.
Right.
Well, there are cultures in which when you are born, you are considered 1 year old, which is, honestly, if you're just rounding to the nearest year, that's not bad. Can't hear you, Brenda.
She's weighing in on your philosophical.
Oh, yeah, it's our philosophical thing going on. Brenda, we can't hear you, though.
When you get down to operator labor, Pete, this, I wanted to have a discussion on years of role.
almost there.
663.
She said something and then she went. "Right."
The camera server, like.
Oh, operator labor, okay, I'm there.
With Scott, he's only been an employee less than for only not even a year. But
Correct, but
He
we
was-
gave them years of service.
we gave him credit for years of service.
Yeah. So that's where I came up with that 6. I pulled his resume to figure out how many years he had from his previous roles, plus the time that he would have been here as of July 1st. But it's up to you.
Yeah, I mean,
Because as of July, we'll have had months, would be 8 months. So here he had over 5 years from the couple.
I just want to
previous
make sure going forward, we do that same type of thing I'll take the police department. If a police officer comes in and has worked in another town for 5 years, is it,
roles, maybe 1 for 1, or
that's what I want to just make sure it's, that is understood, that we do the same.
What would, so that should bring us to the conversation that when we're talking about bringing people in from previous municipal or state, Massachusetts municipal or state position, their longevity and their years of service, are we giving them a 1-for-1 count?
It means you're gonna max out.
You could.
Over 10 years, they're gonna be at the very top.
Yeah.
And
There's gonna be a real discrepancy depending on.
difference also in what step they're gonna be put on versus their benefits, like vacation. You're not gonna give them years of credit.
Right.
And I think that was like what you had to figure out.
Yeah.
When you hired the part-timers, became full-timers.
And they were only given a year's credit for 2 years service.
So 50%. Yeah.
So,
And
That seems more reasonable.
when it comes to the retirement system, it's 1-for-1, but that's because
yeah,
you
that-
were in the state
you're
retirement
in the
system,
system,
so
I get it.
it's 1-for-1.
I like that idea of 50%. Pull it over.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say, if somebody was really doing this same job for 5 years elsewhere, and then they come to us with 5 years of experience, then they've got 5 more years of getting steps. And as they're getting even better at their job, we're just using 10 years as our span for the time that people will still be improving at their jobs. It doesn't seem like we need to discount years of service elsewhere if it's really in the same role. If it's in a different role, then maybe it should be discounted, but
I agree with that. I think we are hiring them because of their experience in many cases.
yeah,
Yeah, the only thing I'm gonna say, like in the case of Eric, who is at this point has only got 3 years, is he came with a lot of experience in some of the other aspects that he is very beneficial to the town. I mean, he spent years as a doing roofing work, so when I need him to help me do like carpentry work, I mean, he excels at that.
yeah.
So that,
So I think we ought to be able to count that in some appropriate way. It doesn't necessarily have to be discounted.
right, so at the very least, I feel that that Eric shouldn't see a discrepancy of 3 versus 6 in this case. That's all I'm saying. And
so maybe to allay your fear, because right now what we're doing is we're just getting people into granted, it's going to get them into their step. We're just trying right sides, essentially.
okay,
When I look at Eric is step 6 with 3 years of service, meaning grade 6 with a step 4, meaning 2814, which is less than his current rate. So we wouldn't put him in at
Right.
2814.
Yeah.
What we would do is we would take his current rate of 2882 and simply apply the COLA, which gives us 2997, which is 40 cents less than the rate that Scott would be getting. So in the end, yeah, Eric's getting a little bit less, but Scott also has the previous municipal experience, so that's where the change in the rate is.
yeah,
Yeah,
You'd have to do that employee by employee.
right.
or
It could be.
based on what we do is we actually adjust any of these where they're less than their current rate, we move them into the step that's higher than their current rate.
Closest to and higher.
That way they're actually at that step that's at that rate. They're not at a weird number within their grade.
Okay,
That would be the other way to achieve this, because there are, even as I'm got like half the list done, there are some people that are still a little off. So we would want to adjust them.
Yeah.
it kind of moved them within the tables, but they are at the step, and then it at least, I would suggest that we look at a rate that's approximate to their current rate plus the COLA. So that they're achieving a COLA, they're getting into their table, and we're showing them that they're at this step. And therefore you have these remaining steps to work towards over the coming years.
So can we use that example on a police officer? Just so I can follow them.
Just so you know.
Well, let me get to those then.
We're not.
Two full-time.
That age, I mean, years difference is only 1 year, 4 to 3.
Now if you're looking at their years of service prior.
Years in the role 4 and 3.
Yeah.
For the part-time police?
Yeah, I'm full time.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're running across the issue with the part-timers. They're all being paid $23.12. They're in step 7. Step 7, step 1 is $28.22.
Yeah. The police officers under the new schema see a significant jump.
So, I think they should.
And again, a very broad range in part-time because we have a lot of difference.
Yeah.
Right. Go from 1 to 25.
Say prior years before coming to weight.
Correct.
Would be easier if we read them.
Because I keep going back and forth. So looking at, I just want to look at, I'm going to sort this just to see the rate of change for those that are negative. Right, there are a number of people that would still be in the negative. Amy Schrader, but that's a non-issue.
I don't think that's an issue.
Yeah. Maureen would still be at under base because she's only been in the role it'll be just over a year at the time. So we would likely move her current rate is 28.64 at a 4% increase would be 29.79. She's in grade 5.
She's in step 9, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah. So we put her at step 9.
And then she maxes out at step 10,
It's,
Yeah,
1 year later.
yeah.
yeah. There's gonna be some people like that. We just,
You're maxing out on your 2.5% growth. You should still be
right,
that cold.
still getting cold. Correct.
So I'm gonna put her at 29.
And then in the case where, like, say she leaves the role, the next
Then we
person
start back.
coming in, that's what I'm saying. It's gonna take a while for this to really filter out and come into play.
Then the next one is Kimber at the library. She's still $2 under. If we take her rate. Be 21.52, and that is a grade 1, 21.52. We would put her at a step
Step 9.
9, yeah.
Really been in the role 2 years.
Then Tori, who's our admin assistant to the Ag Commissioning Community Preservation Committee. She is under by about $2. So again, would be $22.01, and that is in grade 2, 22.
Step 7.
7, yeah, so 22.
So those bumping up on 10. The answer is you added a few more steps, so they have somewhere to go, other than just going.
Yeah. We could.
Isn't that
You just do 12 steps.
the same would be true for the other admin assistant role for planning board and zoning board, listed as Valerie though. She won't.
Never mind.
She won't be doing that, but we have to right size that the position is being paid the same. So 23, 27. All right, and then Carol also in the library. She is still down $1.20. Her rate is 23.5.
So
21.20. The 21.14, or do we go to step 9? I would say we go step 8. Oh wait,
21.14.
Carol. She's got 1 more year of experience than Kimber. Do step 9 actually.
Carol at 9. And
Carol at 9.
Kimber at 8.
Oh, is that Carol already is getting paid less than Kimber? Which is weird.
Yeah,
They're not getting paid the same rate.
I see that.
one's working more hours per week and for less money.
We don't know why that is.
That's bizarre.
That's what the trustees did, yeah. But, so I would say put her in at 9 because she has been here longer, so that she and Kimber can be at the same step. But that's my thought. Anybody else?
I need to know more about why
There's a
commission
difference.
commissioners already have that discrepancy. Why the newest employee is higher than the one
You
that's
would
been
market
there.
it.
It's weird.
Yeah, I think we should probably just bring her up. I mean,
Just right size it.
just right size it, make it right.
Yeah,
There you go.
okay.
The overall cost is really not that much.
No, that's, I
And
understand.
then,
$1,000.
then we have Dylan, who's at 3152 right now. If we did the COLA, it would be 3278. He is in grade 8.
All the way to the top,
What?
3260.
3278 in grade 8 should be.
Oh, I'm looking at, I'm sorry, I was off.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Oh, my fault. I was looking, there is
step 4.
3282.
Yep. Eric is a little under.
Eric,
Elliot, yep. He's under by 68 cents. So if we did his 2882 and I applied the COLA, it would be at 2998. Eric,
998, so you could go,
3030.
yeah, step 7.
Yeah. Yes, at the assistant town clerk. If we apply the 2741 times 104, 2851, and this is a grade 6, 2851.
Step 5.
Step 5 at 2884. The community development director, administrator.
why are there two different rates?
Um,
Why are there two different rates, admin assistant and assistant town clerk? Same person, two different rates, two different
because two
jobs.
different jobs. One's the administrative assistant, one's the assistant town clerk.
See, they're different roles.
How do you keep track of that?
She works the assistant town clerk on Thursday, but as the administrative assistant Monday through Wednesday.
Boundaries.
Yep. She reminds me when she can't help me. No,
Sorry.
yeah.
Have that hat on today.
Yeah, interesting.
So if we take Erica's current rate, 26.59 for 27.65, this is also in grade 6. And 65.
Have to go to step 4.
Step 4, yeah. 28.
814.
So, can I ask a quick question? Are you clearly editing a document in real time? Is it the one that's called pre-final 3? Proposed
Yes.
2026 employee rates?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
exactly.
And like, which column are you editing?
I am editing the column step and then FY.
It's column L, right?
Yeah, column L to give them their grade or their step
Yeah.
level. And I'm editing column N to put in their proposed FY
Okay.
hourly, FY 26
Okay.
hourly.
Because I'm not seeing the changes when I look on.
Yeah, me neither. I'm
Correct.
seeing boxes highlighted, but not the actual changes.
Yeah, I'm not editing the version that you see online, but I have a separate file of that same file. Where I'm editing
Oh,
that same
Would it
file.
help if you screen shared?
or
Yep, I'll do that now.
At the end, could we put in that percentage delta just so we can see the income tax?
This guy's killing me.
I'd just like to know the answer to the test. I thought you were good at this.
Patience.
Not my strength.
Others need it. All right. Elise, transfer station, Elise. 2119 is our current hourly with the 4% would be 2204. This is grade 3. Step 4, 2234. Yep. And Matt, same thing here. You would have to be at the same rate as Elise because it's the same hourly. 34. All right. So that should rate sites everybody except for Amy Schrader. I go back
Why are you moving him to 2234?
because he also is at 2119 currently,
Right.
and that's less than he was still losing. So if I applied the COLA, just like I did for Elise,
Got it.
same exact
Which
steps.
is
Yeah.
step 1.
Yep.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
All right. Go back. Now we have the thing in column P shows the delta of the hourly rate compared for the proposed FY26 against the current 25. And you can see in the P column now,
There's no negative numbers.
the only negative is 80.
That's,
But that's a moot point.
yeah.
So everybody's in the positive.
How do you budget for the moot point?
It was a contract.
So it's a contract and we're bringing in an employee, we'll bring them in at a new rate.
Yeah, well, I think whoever makes a contract with them needs to keep this in mind.
Yes. Wait, who does that? Joyce.
Well, yeah,
I think it's the select board.
I believe that is the case. Now, if had we done this, years ago, then maybe this would not have been, that would not have become necessary, but.
Yeah,
Yep.
we
You
boosted,
still need to budget for the contract.
Should be back in there.
we shouldn't have, because the posting was based on the current budget.
Right.
So we didn't agree, in our posting, we didn't say something beyond what.
But when we get to the big number, you're gonna put in what the current wage was, the current contract.
Was up to a certain amount of,
The job posting
was up to
was up to whatever the budgeted, what her contract would have
whatever the
been.
contract
But
was.
actually, inside of this exercise, you're gonna put in the up to number.
This exercise,
What we're doing to present, say, here's the payroll cost of the,
so you're saying we should show at least what the proposed salary is for,
because you want to get to the number, I think, before you go to the finance people and say, we need
Well,
this
then
amount.
yeah,
Yeah,
Then I'd say you put it in, I
put it in for finance.
you put in at step 10.
just a budget for the
Your
highest
budget.
possible.
Because when your pool of applicants, if you have somebody that's comes to the town of Whately that's got 30 years as a treasure collector in
Okay,
Oshkosh, Wisconsin, then you know what I'm saying, we don't know.
If you save money, you save
The
money.
town does not know at the moment.
that's not great.
So yeah, that would be all I would.
So then we'll put her in at 4440.
And that will take care of that negative number.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so with that,
Is my admin position on that page? I want to my assistant town clerk, but I could have.
that's the one that we fixed,
Ah,
because your admin
Oh,
assistant
see.
role was
no,
improved, but your assistant town clerk was not.
sorry. upties.
Yeah.
So many a lot of.
just a couple. So with that, now this does not include all of the stipends. Just putting that out there. It also doesn't budget in the firefighters as a bucket dollar amount. I'll just talk with Chief to figure that one out.
There's it's
because of the on-call, but you still have the budget you have to create a budget.
It's gonna have to create a budget,
Yeah.
but it just,
Yeah,
it's probably more of a crapshoot for the fire department than it is for the police department, because he never knows who's going to be the one responding.
Right.
Whether it's somebody who's worked 1 year or someone who's worked 20.
Now
Right, but you could figure out the total number of hours used over the last couple of years and just split it up
And I
between that.
think the best way for those variables between the fire department and the police department, they just budget a number, and if after it comes to the finance committee near the end of this year, I'd say, hey,
I agree.
because unanticipated
Yeah, you
extra
just can't.
public safety, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and at the same time, like the fire department, the finance committee is not going to want to see a budget number of the very highest paid firefighter for all the hours.
Yeah.
Because then they're gonna ask for such a huge increase.
Right,
You gotta be realistic, so.
correct.
Now, in order to, we also,
But all the part-timers on call are at the same wage rate.
no,
No,
no, because there's steps now, and the steps are based on
Steps.
how long they've been in the role.
that's what I'm saying.
I get it.
The same thing with the police department.
Which I didn't adjust any of the firefighters yet, but
And do you just level fund the stipends in this exercise?
well,
I
so
think the stipends should probably only be subject to COLA. I don't think we want to keep track of steps on the town moderator or the board of health. Those are volunteer positions, honestly. So
well, and yes, they should just be a COLA. Or if there is an adjustment. So one of the things that was noted by Lynn is she is one of the lowest paid stipend and emergency management directors at 500. Most are getting over $2,000 a year.
Yep.
It's the one stipend role that was called out as being disparate from the others.
Which fix it.
Correct.
I would not be opposed to, I did think that was low as well, honestly.
And I can give you the numbers that she had given. I can see my older structure.
It's a good structure.
I think it drives Jess insane.
No,
But
Way too low. I vote for an increase.
Right. The
yeah,
question,
I want to pull up the document so you can see what numbers were provided.
Okay.
Yeah, there it is. She requested 2,500 based on the FERCog salary survey. And she was using 2023. I just want to pull up the current one because it wasn't available at the time that she wrote that. You can see the rates range from as high as 5,000, no, 57.65 down to 1,000. The lowest is 1,000 if you take Whately out of the equation.
Hmm.
It is a huge spread.
It is.
You have 3K maybe better.
Yeah, I think 25 at the very least is fine.
2,500 plus the COLA.
Yeah,
It's 26.
25 plus. Oh,
Okay,
I like
Now that would bring them up to being the highest stipend in the town, right? Because right now, the highest stipend is at 2,300.
True. But you're applying COLA to that 2,300.
Sure, but it's not going to be 3,000. I'm pretty
Yes.
sure.
2,400.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that I think might actually not be a bad thing.
I was just gonna say, do we have a problem with that?
Uh, I think that, I mean, that will stand out to some people, but I
When
think
you need it,
given the importance and the work that goes with it, I think that wouldn't be something I have a problem with. But I was just going to point it out. What, if it went to 2,500, if it went to 3,000, then they'd certainly be on the top.
right, it's same discussion we've been having about the police. Right.
okay, so. Sorry, I was looking up the salary survey. What did we agree to? Emergency management being,
2,500 plus.
I was gonna say 25 plus the COLA.
So $2,600.
yeah. And then for all of these, we're just applying, the COLA 4%.
Yep. Is all subject to audience, select board, or accepting that to start with, and town meeting approving it. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be a good discussion.
Right, so. There we go, all right. The new impact. Taking the on-call fire out is a 1.718 budget, $1 million budget versus current year's 1.4. So it does increase the salary line item in the town outside of school by 315,000. That's a
21%.
okay.
But
It's going to be a hard sell. It's going to be a very hard sell. That's why you're here, Jerry.
I'll just let police and fire compensate. Happy to.
Oh, poll workers, well,
Part of,
have to get a the increase.
just part of the issue of that is that we've accepted the logic that the number of years of service is also equivalent to these steps. And so you're pushing it way up. You may have to revisit that
If you
assumption.
he's doing what I was just gonna ask. I think if you were just in the COLA box, just for the heck of it, what is a 3%? If the finance committee comes back and says we won't, what does it do to that 315? Can you?
It doesn't. I don't.
I was thinking the same thing.
I did the COLA on the other sheet and only the bottom of this has it working auto adjusted. I have to go back. Sadly, I'd have to go and do it. Manually, but I could do it. Well, you know, what we could do is we could just reduce by 1%.
Yeah, we should treat the COLA separately because right now we're trying to do kind of an apples to apples comparison of what's going to happen to salaries.
Just trying to make it a better sell.
$3,000
Go into.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right.
Okay.
17, because it's 1% off of 1,000,007.
Oh, I was taking off the difference. Okay.
Right. I think if that's a 21% increase, then it'd be a 20% increase if you take away a percent ish.
So it'd be just under $300,000 difference.
Not much.
A lot of the impact here is not the COLA.
I know,
The step.
it's,
It's the,
there's
Yeah.
some
it's the
serious
right sizing
adjustments.
and the new compensation table.
And that's what, even if you take it to a 0% COLA, that is gonna still be a big number on that fire column.
Well, again, you've taken the years of service and said,
Yeah.
everybody's in step 10, so perhaps we revisit that. Period.
Yeah,
But irregardless, there's still some positions, especially police department, with jump upgrades.
Yep.
So
some positions are getting over 50% increase.
that's what I'm saying, so that that's gonna make the number huge no matter what.
Yeah,
There's nothing we can do about it.
well, because of the new grade table, but then because of their years of service, they're
Yeah.
immediately going to 10, so that's the highest.
Yeah.
And they're an adjustment.
Maybe that shouldn't be how you handle that.
I don't we do it any different.
This is looking at a 1 year, one step for a year, as opposed to one step for 2 years.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm thinking back to what Joyce was saying before, that maybe the step should not be, you know, a straight line, but it should, because what is making that number so high is the number of people that we have at the highest step. If,
Well, I mean, yes, it seems to make it high now, but we put them on the high step for a reason. And that means that in the future, they won't be getting step increases. They'll,
oh, true, the cap out.
so
okay.
that's,
Yeah, you're right.
but yeah, it does sort of make this year's higher, but I think it's really the people jumping up in category that, like the ones that are sticking out. I'm looking at it here from what I can see because I can't scroll through the whole thing, but the police officers stand out at having like $12 increases in their pay rate, going from like from 20 something to 30 something an hour. So are policemen in other towns nearby getting 30 something dollars an hour? That would be interesting to look at in the Franklin County survey, because that's a place where I think if I were on the finance committee, I would
there's people of officers.
They don't.
Oh, they don't.
It's just that what you're seeing.
That
Yeah,
individual.
that
Oh,
individual, yeah.
so there's nowhere to.
There's no careers.
Okay,
and then so I don't remember the number for annual salary, which is what it seems to be.
annual, if we look at full-time.
It was right there. Here we go.
If you can-
33. That's part time,
68.
and then it goes up to like 68. Well, that doesn't seem.
Ashfield. Well, Ashfield, yeah, Ashfield full-time is 60.
But that, yeah. Oh, and so you have to be
Berniston,
careful because it's not going to be the same column in each one.
no, it's not.
There's $30 an hour for the full time, 30 something.
Right, So
Uh,
if you consider saying, hey, instead of going all the way to step 10 based on 10 years of service, your years of service step max is middle of the road, step 5. In the case of this 25-year police officer who's currently at 2312, step 5 would move to 31. Right now, your budget has another $4 an hour on top of that, and you're at the top step. I think 23 is way too low. 31 feels pretty good.
What I'm sort of hearing maybe Jerry saying is that we took a lot of the people who were under and we made their step a little bit higher to get them there. And it sounds like we might be saying, well, let's artificially make the step lower for some people, at least for this transition. It means that as the years go in the next few years, it will get them up. They will have room to grow instead of being smack up against the top. And it gives us a little easier transition.
Right. What I'm suggesting is you consistently make everybody that has beyond the, let's call it the 5 years experience. Everybody goes to step 5 if you have 5 or more, whether you have 25 or you have 10, and see how that plays out. I have to
That
go
would be a little different, yeah.
Okay,
and then they have room.
at least that's
to continue to grow.
consistent. You're setting a
Consistency.
Yeah,
Right.
Because I think it may be that we've overstated, hence it's a 300K number, shock. But you might want, I can't guesstimate yet, but you could save easily 50 grand and that 75 grand off that number, which may make it more palatable, while still giving people a nice bump.
you want me to do that?
Yeah, something like that I think might not be, I mean, because I think one of the things we could be criticized for is, oh, you just took people who were below and raised them up, and you never took the people who were higher and bring them down. And this, essentially, we could say, well, no, actually, here's a case where we did. Because we thought the bump was maybe too high, something we couldn't really do all at once. We put them here, that puts them on a path that maybe is going to be easier for the town to manage. And my guess is that's really going to hit many, if not all, of the places where the percentage bump is really high.
Right.
So,
I don't know how to handle it, because all I will say is, I just don't feel we can go into the finance committee and ask for 315,000 increase. It's just not gonna happen, so that,
Right.
we might as well try to make this work.
So if you take the maximum step you can have is 5. So you change all these 10s and 9s to 5, and then compare what that wage rate is to what they're currently being paid to make sure, A, they're getting a decent bump, but B, you're not overtaxing your presentation to the finance committee and to the town. And you're not taking what might need to be 5 years to get to the number and jamming it down everybody's. You're not forcing the issue year one. You're allowing it to continue to attrition, which feels reasonable. At least it might be worth the exercise. Maybe you save what you just did, do it in a different document so you can go back to this if it's not, if it's not accurate, maybe something like that.
All right. Has so many finals.
Yeah, do we have to do this all in one fell swoop of adjusting the salaries and implementing all of the steps? Or do we have the option of implementing, I think as Jerry suggested, a few steps, and then once things catch up, then we can add more steps?
I
Is that an option?
don't think we're proposing adding more steps to the table.
yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah.
All
No,
we're
What
doing
I'm saying is cut back to fewer steps that,
No, what he's saying is for those that have, where we were gonna have them start out at a higher step beyond 5, essentially just say no. If you have 25 years of service, 7 years of service, the maximum that will put you at currently, just to get you started in the table, is a step 5, and then you're gonna keep working up so that there's room to grow. Because otherwise all the other ones they're hitting their ceiling.
How do you do that?
so that's accomplishing the same thing as I'm saying from a different approach. That makes total
Well, that
sense.
we see if that's true, that
Right.
I wouldn't
But
adjust
yeah.
any. So Keith asked the question for those that we put at an inflated step because they were currently already getting a higher rate, we're not touching them. We can't cut them off, so.
Right, those are the ones that that are in red on your table, right?
Adjust those steps where they're getting a significant increase because of that step, and so we're gonna try to right size that adjustment.
I figure now.
Okay. So if I do that. But yes, we'll also make sure that nobody goes down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that one just went down. So that one would not.
Correct, we'd have to go right,
Oh, yeah, this one here, okay. So that would mean they're gonna have to be.
I think they were at a 9 there before you.
There. All right. Here.
steps.
If the employee is already making more, can't reduce it.
Got it. So,
If it's
This is one where water
yeah,
not gonna quite work right, so. Needs to at least be around 31.16. Wait, how did that? It has to be, we have to keep them at a step 10.
has to be, yeah.
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 He's-
I think and those ones weren't sticking out so much in the so that it makes sense that those ones might have to stay where they were.
they're just gonna get the COLA if you're
That's it.
above step 10.
Yeah.
They get that 4%.
Yeah.
That, yeah, because it's true for Dougie too.
Yeah, that's what we have. Yeah, it's not.
Yep, I get it.
All right, then down here, Scott. All right.
I think you're just picking and choosing now, just saying that because you're saying that everybody's gonna be maxed out at step 5. You're not recognizing any years of service after that.
For right
You got
now.
people that have been
For the
now.
moment. But we're trying to solve a problem, Jim.
Just to see what the number is, I get it, but it seems like you're getting further and further away from.
We gotta make
The
some
purpose
purpose.
of the study. You're
True.
just picking numbers now, it seems like.
But we gotta make something that can be presented.
So with Scott, Right now, right? Yeah, with Scott, his current rate is 28.82. With the COLA applied, it would need to be at least 29.90, 97, which means he'd have to be at step 7, which is where we were previously, but some back where we are again.
Yep. So then 30, 30,
I think-
they're both at 30 and 30.
All right, then.
I mean, I guess, Jim, the way I'm thinking of it is that some of our salaries were more out of whack than others. And for the ones that were more out of whack, we need a softer on-ramp. And we're accomplishing that by artificially lowering the steps.
That's a good way of putting it, Joyce.
But there's still the results.
That means within 5 years, though, they're going to be, it gives us basically 5 years to catch up.
Even these part-time officers who have more than 5 years of service, they're still seeing an $8 increase per hour.
Yeah, huge numbers.
They're getting and I think that's what Jerry was pointing out earlier. It's still a pretty good bump, and it gets us up to like some of the ones we were seeing in the Franklin County survey.
Which is, I think is very important to do.
This is one where Wayne's he's got an inflated salary.
Yeah.
26.
Step 2.
Yeah, you left up there.
It would be 42.91 with just the COLA applied. 42.91 would mean
4291
it's
is
just 9.
step 9.
So it's one step lower than we were proposing originally.
About 5,000, I'm sorry,
It's
$2,500 savings.
Yeah.
certainly going forward where you are right now. Well, that's gonna,
That'll change.
too.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Paul said $250,000
Oh, that's
total increase.
Yeah.
65,000 plus.
1.65 budget for salary. 1.65.
So what's that percentage? We were at 20.
48. Still pretty good.
It's still double digits.
Yeah.
14 to 18%.
Which,
But you, at some point, have to make the position of, you gotta take care of your town employees.
I know.
And
Yeah.
a $250,000 increase. Okay, took the bullet. Next year, this, what was the final number?
1.65.
Right. So this is gonna increase. It's gonna be 30,000, 40,000. You have to take the fight. And
I agree.
I just want to take the.
This is, I know, I get the bites, but you're looking at multiple increases every year for the next. At that higher level, because all those positions that were above 5, they're going up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's right. It spreads it out over a little bit of time, though, for us. But that any given year isn't as shocking a percent increase as this one.
Let's say 30, 40,000 a year for the next.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
5
Well,
or 6 years.
but that's probably what the town should have been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we should have been doing all along.
Yeah. Not doing such a massive correction.
And you're taking care of the people.
So, okay. How do you feel?
Well, I feel that we at least can go into the finance committee and say that we were, when we first proposed this, we were at 315 and we realized that was huge. And we came up with this other method and
Yeah.
we're compromising, we come up with something.
Yeah.
You're fiscally prudent,
Right.
but you're taking care of.
We need to realize some of these positions were drastically off and
Mhm.
we have, there's no doubt about it, we as a committee have spent hours looking at reevaluating every position, not every employee, but every position. And I feel that when we came up with the grades and for each position, that they're legit.
Concur?
Do we have a motion to approve the compensation and classification plan, the table of grades and the rates on the steps? The
So moved.
version, the final version, final 3 years, pre-final 3, I think what they call it.
The big
A
sheet or
second.
Or it's second, what was it? No, 3. Yeah.
It was 3.
the sheet or the big sheet?
This sheet,
This down right there.
it's just the job titles and the step numbers, the step rates.
Brenda moved in.
So I have a motion made and seconded to approve the compensation classification plan proposed version 3. How's that? Good?
Yep.
Any other discussion?
We have to vote.
Yes.
Jerry says yes.
Hearing no further discussion, I'll do a roll call vote. Sorry. Susan,
Aye.
Joyce,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye. What?
and Jerry,
Yes.
and myself, yes, so that's unanimous. Okay,
Do we have a motion on the cost impact analysis based on the rules that we just created that brought us to an increase of 248,200?
48.
I'm rounding.
I move that we approve the final, the document that we're looking at called Final 2, proposed FY 2026 employee rates.
Second.
Be a new title.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could I just ask that we add a percentage delta column at some,
What's the delta?
what they're currently making to what's being proposed? What's the percentage?
Percent increase.
You want the annual changed into a percentage?
No, just a column right next to it.
Right, but you want the annual converted into a percentage?
If it's in percentage, it could be our annual or hourly. You should get the same number.
You've got the dollar cost. I'm just saying, put a column next to it that says percentage delta. So that we can say this went up $5,000. It's a 9% increase. Now we can argue about the value of that position in the community.
Yep.
And then you'll have the whole answer.
Okay.
Okay. I would second that.
Okay, so I have a motion made by, was it Joyce?
Right,
Yes.
but Joyce now has a question. Final 2, is that the wrong document?
No, this is right.
It's got the same as final, because I thought Final 3 was what we,
No, pre-final 3 was for the compensation classification plan. That was a separate, different file.
thank you. Final 2, proposed 2026 employee rates, yes.
Okay, so I have a motion made by Joyce and seconded by Jerry. Jess, are you clear on how?
I'm just waiting.
Change the percentage.
Yeah. But you hear me?
Okay. Any other discussion? And hearing none, I'll put this up for a roll call vote. Susan,
Aye.
Joyce,
Aye.
Brenda, Jerry,
Yes.
and yes, myself, unanimous.
Okay, the last item then is discussion on the proposal of how the select board should implement the step process. If the step process will be each anniversary, your anniversary as of July 1st of that year will determine your step +1.
That seems. I would move that one step equals 1 year with your years at your anniversary out July 1st. That's the only thing that makes any sense to do.
Agreed.
So I guess that's in motion form. I move that we adopt the 1 year per step with the anniversary on July 1st.
So I guess my agreed is a second.
Okay. So I have a motion made and seconded. Jess, you're clear on the motion? All right. Then any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll put it up for roll call. Joyce,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Susan,
Aye.
Jerry,
Yes.
and myself, yes. That passes unanimous. Okay. Is there
What's our next meeting?
anything else?
I'm free next Monday.
Let's hope that we don't need to.
Our next meeting might be with somebody other than Keith.
Good working group.
So our next, this will be proposed to the finance committee when? Tomorrow night.
See you there.
I will be there.
Okay. And we don't need to do anything like elect a new chair because we know Keith isn't coming back to the committee. That can be reorganized when the next time we meet, right?
Yep.
Okay, good.
I've got an extra guest for you tomorrow, Pete. You can wear two.
I'll be over by that back door.
I know how to open that.
Yeah. All right, then, is there any other items not anticipated? Hearing none, call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Have a motion made, second to adjourn. Roll call vote. Susan,
Aye.
Joyce,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Jerry,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you, everybody. It's been a long haul, but we've got